Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a transfer market metrics special for Anfield Index. It really isn't too long until that January window opens, isn't it? Now, the rumours are, the suggestions that Liverpool won't be too active in January, but what does that mean? What isn't too active? Is it one? Is it two? Is it which position? We've all heard the Semenyo rumours and other things, but for this episode, having done a bit of digging at Anfield Index, we're going to have a solid look at three players we are scouting. Now, it's important to say for this, ladies and gents, we mentioned it before on Transfer Market Metrics. There's a fair few steps before scouting, as we've told you before. There'll naturally be scouting, analysis, Hughes, Edwards, whoever it'll be, will watch videotape before moves. But these are players we know Liverpool have had scouts in the stadiums watching. So that's why they're on the docket for tonight. Well, the morning, actually. I'm losing track of what time we are. Anyway, Bart, I've got you as ever. The three names, without giving too much away. How excited are they getting you on this Friday morning?
I think, those who've listened to us before on the show, I think the pair of us like to see, a prospect, a young kid that you see something in that could do something. And I think one of them ticks this box. One of them, I think, we're both a bit like, yeah, okay. And then the other one, I think, is a solid player, So I can see why we're looking at these players 100% for all of them. But yeah, one of them, I think, I quite like the prospect, the potential this player could become.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we'll run you through it all. The normal statistics, we'll talk about the video footage, the eye test a little bit as well, and general thoughts around it from what we've been told. So we'll start, ladies and gents, probably a position I think many have got as a priority for Liverpool right now, where they need one, centre-back. And it may well come in the form of an Ecuadorian centre-half. Joel Ordonez, 21 years old, currently at Club Brugge, which people will think of. Belgium isn't the most fashionable of leagues, but also it's important to say, as you know, Bart, playing in the Champions League, and we saw him in Europe quite often. There's quite a bit of footage, or they've seen him in games as well. So describe to us, when we sort of did the digging on this, as an all-round centre-half prospect with a good ceiling. That's important to say. And, 21 years old with this experience, there is a lot to like. We'll go through the contract bits and all those types of things and potential fees afterwards. But the information is that UK journalists, we've had David Lynch on the show, Lewis Steele, all saying absolutely Liverpool have had scouts in the stadium watching this kid. And it's important to say as well, Bart, the reports are from Ecuador that Liverpool have got an interest. But again, scouting to making a move is a little bit different. So let's just run the numbers on this kid and see what we reckon.
Yeah, he's. If you watch him, I think he's right-sided, which is probably not a shock to everybody, because that's a particular area of being targeted by the opposition at the moment. Whether you think that's due to a player or just tactical setup, it's just a fact, that one. I think he says better to say he's front-footed in his defensive abilities. He likes to be proactive. I think when we spoke about Schlotterbeck a bit, he likes to try to get out and get in front of the pass.
Definitely.
So you just have to be wary whether or not he'll get turned if you're playing against quicker players, because Champions League is once a week, Bruges is every single week. So there's some habits there that you might not work out in the Premier League. I think he can pass the ball. He doesn't look the most cultured on the ball, but he can pass it. So it's not a bad thing. I think if you look at his passing attempts on the usual sites, he's good number of good volume of passes, and his passing his completions about 91. So it's not bad for a centre half. He part progressively as well, which is the key thing that I think we saw against City. Right, his inability to do that does cost us in games, because opposition just go, well, go on then, Ayyoub, you pass the ball, and then Ayyoub can't do that. It's never been his game, right? I'm not picking on him, but it's just never. Right. So this kid's got progressive passes in the 80th percentile for a centre half. He does carry it a little bit, but I think that's where he's a bit limited, I would have to say. When he carries it, I think he looks even more not uncomfortable, but he just looks a bit laboured when he's doing it. As I said, watched a lot of footage on this kid because he was the first one he gave me. I thought I'd watch a bit of it, but yeah, he can pass it. Don't expect to see Van Dijk type of pass, and he isn't that kind of passer, but he is accurate. He does do the volume.
Yeah.
Although on F-Brief, it's really weird because I expected when I looked at it, I thought, when you watch him, he's always trying to be, if he's not engaging, he will position himself to defend, right? He'll always try and be in the middle of the goal, which is good. He's a sense in danger, right? Fullback is out there. He's got beaten. I need to be in here to block across. But when you look at his F-Brief, he's actually really low for blocks, which suggests either not a lot coming to the team, but coming to the box, fair enough, or he doesn't do it that much. So it's a bit weird. His aerials is a bit low. You know, if you're expecting him to come in and solve an aerial problem, that's 35th percentile for...
The only thing on that, it's really important to say this, because you say we watch the footage. Again, footage, we've seen him in games, especially from against Villa the other year. He is pretty good in the air, and the footage shows he's got a leap on him. And actually, when you look at his FB ref this year, I think it's not far off, like 70%, which you've always 70%. Said 65 upwards is what Liverpool look like or look for traditionally.
So it's a weird one, and that's probably because of Bouaddi's playing in the general thing. He might have had a few, but no, that's not bad for an aerial position. But you're right. When you watch the footage of him, nearly everything you see is he's heading the ball away. He's really good. So it's clearly a strength of his. So the other thing that you can see if you watch some of the Champions League games where Brugge becomes stretched, he's quite happy to go into the right back area and defend on a 1v1. Which is something that Ayyoub can do, but has not done as much this season. So, and we would need, ideally, we've all sat here talking about how we want the team to play and the rest of it, yada yada. But if you're playing Frimpong, for example, you want him to have a license to bomb up and go and support the attack, which means then that there's a likelihood a ball will come in behind into that channel, and you need your centre half to go and deal with that. So. Yeah, him showing the ability to do that is probably is a good thing. The only other areas to be aware of, he is active in the boxes, but again, that's really hard to judge because it's the Belgian league, right? It's how good are the defenders he is then going up against. If he's one of the best in the league, Virgil is one of the best in the league by a mile, but the rest of the Premier League centre halves are also pretty decent. So it's a different thing. If you look at some of the stuff I've done on him, he's in terms of what he does on a normal game to game, he wins a lot of the threat coming against him in 98% in this one. In his particular channel, he's very good at dealing with the threat he's being faced, which is kind of what you want to see in terms of his passing. Good pass networks being isolated in his areas. That's strong for where he's involved in. Again, that passing metric really, even if it's not the long stuff, it's the ticking over. And he's also got a lot of vertical passes, which is into their forward player who plays the number 8 in this game. So that's some good stuff. He's not going to appear on the shots, thankfully. I'm never a big fan of that, as you know. And defensive actions, again, he's in good areas. He's got a high volume. He's dealt with it, and he's off the ball. And he's also quite a good size. So, there are signs there. Yeah, just that question about the on-ball stuff, actually in possession. Is he going to be a massive upgrade on Ayyoub, or is he? I mean, he's only, like you said, he's 21, isn't he? So they certainly have a lot of faith in Leone, so it's whether or not you are looking to wait for Leone, pairing with him. I don't know. That's the question beyond that, right? But as a player, yes, he does have some attributes. Aerially, 70% is good enough, although it's not showing up in the percentiles. But the mix he's in. When you watch him live, he's in good spaces, spots danger, is proactive, which is kind of what you want. It's quick as well. And comparing him here with the Konate, he actually outperforms Konate in a lot of the on-ball metrics and the goal scoring stuff. But ultimately, Ayyoub beats him on aerials and tackle dribbles. So there's some, they're similar, not far off a similar profile, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, yeah, some interesting things. You can see why he's been scouted. I would just question the order in which he is in their big list of players that they're clearly looking at for January or something.
This is probably where it gets a bit tougher, because there'll be someone who'll be saying, and I get this, like, look at something like the passing, how aggressive he is. We've watched the footage as well, decent in the air, young, all that. Couldn't argue with that. There's plenty of ticks in the box. That's why they've scouted him. Zero doubt about it at all. I suppose the one thing that we come to, and you mentioned Leone, because that's important. You know, the club were looking for that young centre half with a real ceiling. That's why they've looked historically at, Lenny Yoro before he went to United. They wanted Huijsen, didn't they? They got Leone. That was the one they finally got. It is important to say, people, that our info was, or is, that Ordonez was in that mix in the summer as well when they were looking before they settled on Leone. So, you've got to work on that basis that Leone was above him in the pecking order of centre halves that they would look at. I suppose a question a little bit before we get into other numbers and transfer bits, Bart. Liverpool, say historically, and listen, this summer was unprecedented, wasn't it? The way we were and so you never know fully. But Liverpool are not known to traditionally, although we all want it, carry 5 centre halves. That may obviously change. We'll have to see going forward as well. But one thing they've traditionally, or definitely not done in recent years, is a better way of putting it, they've not really carried 2 young centre halves, have they? So does that come into the mix for you? The potential, would Liverpool run with Ordonez and Leone in the squad when he comes back that way? Or is that just being made too much of?
No, I think it's a fair point. They haven't traditionally done it, but they've also got lucky. You got to remember, they had Joe Gomez in the middle and he was injured. They got Matic in. Matic then stayed. Yeah, they had a crossover of players at Canard. There's always been a bit outgoing and a guy that's been good at building that replacement edge. They've never got themselves to a situation now where you haven't got that mid-layer player coming through, right? They didn't fancy Kwanzaa, right? So they got money for him.
Yeah.
Cool. But ideally, in the terms of development, he would have been your mid with Joe, and then you bring a youngster in at the bottom, and then when Kanaya moves on, one of that. Do you know what I mean? There's an obvious progression. They've missed they haven't got that middle step at the moment, so they might be. And they know. I don't know. That's somewhere I've just had. I wouldn't suspect they're going to go in a top drawer and go, let's go and get a Van Dijk centre half. I don't think they're going to do that. So they might be thinking, can this kid play in the Premier League? If we give him a year development and then he comes in and he's a youngster with Leone. But I can't see it. But I also, the alternative is, I'm not sure what options they do. They missed out on Gay, who would have been that mid-level player. He would have been that middle. So, also, you don't know what Gomez is going to do. If Gomez goes, then you're probably going to need another one come in. So it's an interesting one. I think if he's good enough, they'll probably and the deal's good enough, and they can get that other mid-level player to take more of the load in terms of playing. You could see it happening that way, should we say? But I wouldn't suspect that they're going to bring this guy in to be like third, first rotation. I think that's a little bit extreme.
So it's so difficult. I mean, from general the metrics that we talk about as well, deal until 2029 with Club Brugge. Suggestions are that if Liverpool did want to make the deal or do it in January, that they'd be looking around the 35 million mark as well, which, funnily enough, is around the deal that Liverpool were looking for Mark Gay in the summer before that went tits up at the same time as well. I mean, With this, I suppose it depends a little bit on what Liverpool want to do, how urgent the need is as they see it for January, because we've talked about a lot of centre-halves, haven't we? Like Liverpool have watched, as we know it. It's clearly a position they're looking at. There's zero doubt of that. Van Hecker, Diamande, Schlotterbeck, Gay, as you mentioned, just 4 there, we're plucking. There's other ones in the mix as well. I don't want to sound harsh on this kid because, as you said, there's a lot of boxes he ticks, and we haven't exactly got the exact speed as well. But when you watch the footage, he's got the turn of pace and he can cover those spaces, like you said, similar to Konate. So there is a lot of ticks in the box. But, because you want to be realistic on this programme as well, where do you think he sits in that realm of centre-halves that Liverpool are clearly looking at? Because I suppose if it's one that they maybe need in January, he might well go up the list, in terms of attainable. But in terms of, I suppose, ultimate preference, does that vary it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to be really honest. When we did the Schlottback pod, it made a lot of sense to me to go and get someone of that quality in January.
Yeah.
Right. We were still there or thereabouts in the league. We were looking okay. There was just a few little tweaks we needed. Right. Now we're out of the league. I mean, I'm sorry to burst people's bubbles, but I don't think we're going back to win the league. Champions League will be a one-offer. So in terms of a financial position for the club, they might decide to keep their pile of drive for the summer, because this team is good enough to get top 4. People, again, might disagree with me, but they are. So do you need to go and get another centre-half when you're investing in Leone's rehab? You've got Gomez fit, and you've got Endo. So I think therefore, this guy is potentially more likely now in January than he was, because you're not bringing in someone to start. You're bringing in someone just as another body, right? If Gay becomes available in January, makes a bit of sense. But equally now, not so much, because we're not in the league. So therefore, you might as well wait to get Gay for free in the summer. So I think, to answer your question, I think our league form has probably meant that he's moved this guy, or players of this profile have moved up the list. Because it's not such a priority now for the league right now. It's not such a priority that he comes in and starts. It's just a priority that we have another body in there who could potentially be a starter in the future. And that, I don't mean to be down on things, but it's not. It's just trying to be realistic. You don't win the league from our position.
Yeah. And it's one of those people, it all depends how people view it. People will see that as we need one now. And for the record, people, we'd love to get a quality centre-half. Like, don't mistake it for 1 second. We're all desperate. It's a priority. Progression, defenders, all that type of thing. Meet in the middle, someone who can actually, not a grok, but someone who can just kick someone a little bit. Or we'd love it all. But it may just be that Joel Ordonez at Club Brugge becomes, do we want it now? How desperate are we? Do we want to wait? I think he might well be lower down the list of targets, but we won't change your mind on that whatsoever. But one to keep an eye on, as we said, important reports from the UK and from Ecuador. And we know this, we've had the various journos on. Liverpool have scouted him, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. The second one, this fascinates me, Bart, because Liverpool have got a history of looking at a player, not making a move, and then watching, as we know, their price tag soar through when they didn't make the move at a lower level. And funnily enough, you think of players like Bouaddi when he was at Lille. Liverpool had a good look, but didn't. And then look what it would take to fetch him now when Brighton pulled the trigger. There's numerous examples where you can say Liverpool didn't make the move when they looked at the player, and look where they are now. So this one probably falls into this mix. I mean, Bouaddi at Lille. This is a name known to, obviously, all world scouts. All clubs have looked at him. But again, from our info at Anfield Index, Liverpool have scouted this kid. And it's important to say that, despite, how many appearances, 18 years old a number of times. As we've watched the footage and getting the bits of info from other people. There's an element of fab around him in certain terms, but he doesn't maybe have the ping or the progression necessarily that others. But as I wanted to set it up for context that way, a lot of what we were being told was this is the time to get him because of his contract situation, which we'll come to, his profile now. A bit like almost the way we talked around Hato. Was he ready right now? Probably not. But if you maybe don't get this kid now and you want him in a few years, you're probably being asked for a king's ransom at the same time as well. So we'll run the numbers on Bouaddi because he is a fascinating player, especially when you've seen him in Europa, Champions League briefly as well. Some talent.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, I was probably a bit like you. I watched his games, I watched a bit of footage, and then because he hasn't played that much, you end up watching a lot of the league, the youth. Do you know what I mean? The reserve league of some of these earlier, which takes you back to watching park football because you know low attendance that people are playing in. But no, look at his profile. You're probably going, what's this about? What are you looking at this kid for? But he's a DM, so he receives good number of progressive passes. He takes players on, carries is improving, pass completion 86%. I know that's 72%, but actually 86% on average. That's kind of Grab does that on most games, so it's not low. That's just low compared to the sample he's in. The volume is low. Yes, I'll give you that. That's 22 per game. After 22nd percentile, sorry, so that's 40 passes a game. So that's probably a little bit low. But these are all things that you've got to look at opportunity. If you're in a middle to poor side, you're not going to have ball lots. You can't actually pass it that much, right? And it's particularly if you're the DM, where you're the water carrier to get it and give it to somebody else, right? So in the box, this is going to sound a bit mad, but I'm actually quite pleased he's low down there because it gives me an indication that he doesn't go in the box. Right?
We've got enough who want to attack. I want people to want to defend and kick people. Yeah.
I want people to be back here in front of the back. It's one of my criticisms of Grab this season is that he has done some great stuff, but he's a bit too loose in terms of just be the sixth for me. Just sitting there. Defensively, tackles good, 75th percentile. Blocks, which is, if you watch the footage on him, that is a really it's a smart. He does block the ball well, block passing lanes. And the thing is, when you watch him, it's why his receiving success is quite high. He receives it in tight areas, and he's happy to then carry it quickly and play it. Right, he's not looking to go and do 40, 50-yard bursts. He's just trying to get out and play the ball. And there's lots to be said about that. That's kind of keeping it simple in that area. I would suggest is something we are missing this year. I think the one thing that I love about this kid, he's very strong on the ball. Right? Yeah. He's really proactive and able to read the danger areas. He's operating in zone 14, right? So those who don't know, watch the pod, whatever, that's one of the danger areas in the pitch. You don't want the opposition to get in there and dominate that area because there's a huge percentage chance that they will get a goal scoring opportunity from passing that box, right? So if you watch the footage, is happy to operate in that area, happy to be proactive and snuff danger out when it's going to come into that area, and then quickly get it to a teammate. And that's something Fab used to do a lot. And that you were right, he's got Fab-like tendencies. His tackles are quite high because he does this telescopic leg thing. He just hooks it around, nicks it, and then says to his mate, there you go, I've got the ball, you go and do your thing now. So, there's a lot. There is really quite a lot to like about him. Obviously, he's in the blue here. He's not going to have as much data as Grab, but there are some things. He's better at blocks than Grab. He's better at dribblers, tackled. He's better at receiving progressive passes. So Grab's going to be better at a lot of things. It's opportunity-based with a lot of these metrics, right? Grab plays for Liverpool. He receives the ball a lot during the game. He's going to have to pass the ball a lot. It's different to if you're playing for Lille. It's not the same sort of level. But there are concerns you've got to think about. He hasn't played a lot of football. It's coming up to 898, so that's a little bit low. We'd have to be wary of him. He's a young kid, so you've got to build that up. Aerially, he's only around the 60 mark, right? So that's kind of Kwanzaa level. That's not a bad thing because he's a line in front. And the thing that I think you said right at the beginning, which is really important, is people get obsessed with this long ball game. We need to get someone to head the ball away. That's not our problem, right? That isn't our problem. We can win the ball area. It's what we don't pick the ball up afterward. It's the second ball. We've conceded something like 7 goals from second ball recycles, right? So that's horrendous. We weren't doing that last season. So when we say from watching him, he's in the right areas to pick up, spot danger, that's exactly what this kid does. He's in there, spots the ball coming down, nicks it, proactive, plays it. So, aerially, would you like him to do better? Of course you would. We want a team of giants again. That's how you don't get done aerially. But equally,
it's important to say though, especially aerial, because he's only 18, so he said he's not got much football.
He's improving.
You can see the uptrack, and in a weird way, when you watch his footage through the years, he's improved. You can see him getting bigger, isn't he? Like he's a growing lad type of thing in the most basic way. So to actually be standing at just shy of 60 or not far off it for the season, and it's going on an upward trajectory, it's important to note that because he's got a big frame. It's important to say.
Yeah, he's tall. He has got all the attributes. Genuinely, he's got all the attributes to be a really, really smart player. If you look at him in the passing, he's right in the middle here in the passing metrics. Good level of passing, considering that's not really a massive strength of his. PPDA, he's in good areas here. That's just about 11% of the team's peak. That's defensive actions. In terms of threat, what did he face? He lost a lot in this game. Fair enough. But it's only accounts for about 5% of the attacking teams. But he's done, in terms of creation and threat, from his little zone, he's got about 16%. So, about 5 to 6% of the overall team, and his own is from his area. So, he's quite good in that little box of just ticking over, giving it to somebody else, and then the player will come out from that, which you'll see here. The line's coming out from that central area there. So, shots. He's again happy he's not involved in that. Happy he's not involved in that. All right. So, I think there's a lot of players we've looked at over the years. I mean, geez, I was looking the other day, we must have had close to 50, 60 players. And there's a few youngsters we've watched out and gone, that could be a really smart investment. Could be good at the right price. And I think, I have to be honest, I think this kid falls into that category. I think you're right. If he does well and keeps doing well in Europe, keeps playing well, next summer someone's going to snap him up and he's going to be out of our price range. Where you get him now, you look after him better than we did with Badge, for example, and you could have another player to come in and play underneath for us, and it's not going to cost you £100 million. So I think he has a lot of attributes. He's on an upward trajectory. He does do a lot of really good stuff in that danger area that we need to protect at the moment. So, if he's not a lot of money, I think this is a smart signing.
This is where I think it'll get interesting. But again, is it enough for now? This is the big talking point. So with his contract and doing a bit of digging around this, that it expires in 2027. So he's going to have a year left to go in the summer, which is important to say. Importantly as well, because you mentioned Lille there. I mean, they're about 5th in Ligue 1, but they it sounds terrible, but they've been slipping for years. They're one of those clubs that since they won the league, they've been gutted, haven't they? Like Kone went, Jonathan David went as well. So, it's one of those nature of clubs. So all the suggestions are Bouaddi is not looking to sign a deal. He's looking to move on. Important to say as well that I think Moroccan born but committed for France was the info that we had. So PSG are also having a good look at this kid, obviously, for their homegrown numbers and that type of element as well. But, I mean, he'll have a year left. So 18 months in January, because let's talk about January a little bit. Suggestions we've got, again, from trying to dig around and get info, that Lille would sanction it around 40 to 45 million mark as well, because again, they probably hope for a little bit of a bidding auction, wouldn't they? And there's a lot of clubs around Europe really like this kid, nominate for Golden Ball. They know his talent. Yeah. They know the potential. I don't want to bag on this kid at all because of the potential he's got, but I've got to ask it in these terms. The potential's there. A lot of the boxes are being ticked, upturn what he could be. As was put to us by an analyst, this screams like a more traditional, old school Edwards FSG signing, where if you were smart, you do it and, bring him through. But I don't want to say this, but you've got to face into it. Where we are right now, what we need from a 6, probably what we're lacking more than anything. I think most people would do a 6 in a heartbeat. And, we're not going to get names, but a Belabor or something like that, if we could. Is this kid in the short term, and you can even go to the summer, going to be the 6 Liverpool need? Or are our needs just more immediate, that even though this could be a good deal, it's just going to put it down the rankings, if that makes sense?
For me, I think I've already said it, I don't see a lot of justification unless November goes horrendously for spending a lot of money in January, because I genuinely think the season is pretty much dead, right? And you can all shoot me for that, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
But for me, I start the season wanting to win the league title. That's gone for me. So half the season's dead. Champions League, I think it depends on the draw. Sure. But we've already shown we can get ourselves up for back-to-back fixtures. So I think we can do that with this team, right? So my head isn't quite where a lot of people are, because I don't see the massive impetus of overspending in January to fix something that isn't actually going to it's not going to win you anything, right? So that's where this might be a smart move now. And you go again in the summer, I don't know. But it also depends on, having said that, someone like Belabor might only be available in January. Therefore, that becomes a more pressing need you get in, because you are going to need someone in that area, right? Whether I think it's now or summer, we are going to need a 6.
Need a 6, yeah.
We need a 6, right? Whether I think that will turn the dial on the season or not is kind of irrelevant. It's just whether you think you can get the right quality 6 now. If you can't, then it might be good to go and get a kid for the future, because you're going to miss out in the summer, and you go and get a proper 6 in the summer. That's where I'm at. I'm not quite in we need something to fix a problem now, because that time has gone. That, 6, 7 defeats in the last 9 games is put to bed a very promising start to the season. So yeah, for me, if a player was available with a decent price, of course you go and do that in January. Of course you do. He's a good player, right? And then you put this kid in the summer. But if you're going to miss out on this kid for PSG, I wouldn't want to miss out on this kid, is what I'm saying. I think it's got a real potential to be a real star for us in the future.
Yeah, honestly, with this, I'm going to sound like a politician. I think you can make an argument either way, because the ceiling is massive with this kid, and he could be, a superstar. And it's one of those where if you do get him for around the 40 million mark in January, say, I do think it'll be a good investment in the future, where you look and go, that was a good move, that was smart money spent, good scouting, good analysis. And I just think at the moment, and people will have their own names, like they'll be saying Belabor, as we mentioned, Elliot Anderson, who I also like. Would they be better for right now ahead of him? I don't think there's any doubt of that at all. It's just how you don't know how Liverpool behind the scenes see it in terms of the immediate demands, the future, and how they're looking at it right now. But for our analysis people, Bouaddi, some talent. If Liverpool got him, a lot to like for that one. Whether he's your 6 right now, completely different conversation, but we'll steer away from that one. And we'll steer into the final one, Bart. I mean, this is a fascinating one, this one. It's a player that's only moved in the summer. There's a few links. Liverpool, again, for our info, have definitely had scouts watching this player. And the weird thing about this is he's a player that plays in a couple of positions, but at the same time is very different, Wilfred Singo, when he's played right back, very, very different to what you get with Frimpong and with Bradley in that sense as well. But it's an interesting one that we have looked at him, because when he only moved from Monaco last summer to Galatasaray for just over 26 million quid, But in terms of when we talk about lack of height, lack of physicality, all those types of things, this guy is ticking a lot of these boxes when you look at it. And right back, centre back, which we'll talk about as well. So what are the stats saying for Singo?
So you're right, he's got 2 profiles. If you watch a lot of footage, he's almost 50-50 as well. I'd have to look at the actual minutes. There's a lot of games where he's ended up playing right back. You get what I mean? He's True. Yeah, it's a lot of things. I mean, whenever you look at a profile and there's a lot of green, you know you're probably into a good thing, right? But it is the Turkish league, so
yeah,
you've got to take a little bit of pinch of salt. Defensively, 80th percentile for tackles, 98 for interceptions, which again, if you watch the footage, that is kind of what he does. He's very good at being in the right place at the right time. He does like to, he's again a proactive. If I said anything about these centre halves, the way of profiling at the moment, they're all front foot, proactive, trying to nip in front, aggressive, right? That is a common trait in every single one of these ones that you've given me recently. When you watch the footage, they all do a similar kind of thing. They're not looking to get turned, but they're very happy to go hard in with the player and then nip it in front and nick the ball. And they're also, this guy as well, because he can play fullback, he's even more comfortable in that right area. So if he gets pulled out, he adopts like a right back position and defends the guy in 1v1 better than a lot of guys that we've looked at recently. So, I think he aerially, I just looked up, he's around 60s. He's had a high as a 70, I think. So he's been as high as around 70. He's dropped a little bit low this season. So aerially, he is good. I think he's probably slightly a nudge above Gay as well. Just for comparison for people. And again, if you watch him in the footage, he's good in the air. I think he's another one of these players that seems to have an ability to read the play, see how it's progressing, and then position himself to deal with the second ball, the cross, if he's not going to win the first thing. If he's not in the first thing, he's very good at saying, right, well, if I'm here, I can do this. He does have a weird way of clearances, which people might have to get rid of. Anyone remember Timo West from Inter that we nearly signed with the green hair? Yeah. There's a few clearances. If you watch the footage, you're like, "Whoa, this is wild clearances." It gets the job done, but it's an interesting thing. So Green as a centre half, carries it, passes it well. Pass completion 85% is a little bit low for a centre half. We used to be in the 90s, not long under a lot of pressure, and volume is low. But again, this is opportunity based, so Gala might not have as much of the ball as a Premier League team. So there needs to be wary of for that. In the box, very non-penalty goals, shots, assists. He's quite good at putting a ball in on a secondary cycle. He's not involved in the box, and some of that comes from being that when he's a fullback. If you look at his fullback, he's taking more shots, and his expected assist is higher. His passing rate is good for a fullback, and he makes more progressive passes as a fullback. And defensively, as a fullback, is in 99, 99, 99, which is the way for clearances, areas, and interceptions. So that's not bad as a fullback, to be fair. Centre back, when you compare him to Konate, I would say he's arguably better apart from pass completion and aerials, right? When you compare him to a fullback, I don't think I've got a fullback on there, unfortunately. But the fullback, he's in slightly different areas because I think his areas are better for a fullback. But centre half, I think, compares well with Konate. Playing time, if I just get that one up, which is down here. So this is just domestic league, and he's played over 2,000 minutes for the last few seasons. So that's a good pedigree, all right? You tweet one memory. It was the Monaco left back that City signed that we can't really talk about, but
Mendy,
yeah. There's a bit, the way he crosses a ball is a bit, and he as a fullback is that there's some traits in that, and that might be the French system, right? Because he can put a ball in from fullback. You watch him, it goes out to him, takes out a touch, and he puts a good shape of ball in. And in terms of dashboard stuff, So he plays right side, so he's in these areas. He's not involved too much in putting the ball into these areas, but he's solid at getting it to his fullback.
Yeah.
In terms of, he actually created, I've got it here now, I haven't. He created nearly 5% of the team's threat. This was against us as well, by the way. So he did pretty well. In terms of what did he stop? He stopped 80% of the threat he faced versus us, which on the night, was that Cody and Verts, wasn't it? I think, if I remember correctly, because Mo was on the bench. So that's not bad baptism. He was in this area. So again, defensively, he's done okay. He's done a good volume of defensive actions and come up well. And in terms of his zone, it again shows you up that he's in a good shape with his back four in this XG. Yeah, fine. Overall, it's an interesting profile. What is he? 25 as well. So this
24,
might be that.
25,
that might be that mid-level defender we chatted about earlier on. Mid-20s, not a kid anymore.
No.
Coming into being more of a regular. Certainly got some stats there. You'd have to take into account different league, all that kind of stuff. But again, because of those things that seem to be in every single centre-half profile at the moment, this guy does that. He's also got more of a pedigree than Ordonez from the first one we looked at today. So, I can see why we're looking at this type of player. He's quick. I haven't got the stats from the UEFA league. Sorry about that. But, I can see what we're looking at him. I don't know what the price is on him, but I can imagine God, I don't want to let him go sitting there and just bought him in the summer. But, he seems a good profile, and if you watch him, the eyes match the stats in this one, whereas the others, it's a little bit of difference.
It's a weird. I was trying to make sense of all the info. Like say because we watched the footage, it's kind of aggressive and seems raw at times as well. But then it's almost that this is going to sound bobbins, but there's culture of, like you said, sometimes his clearances are wild, but then when you see him defend the channel, like hold on, he's just read the game really well. And the next minute, he'll go smashing into the stands to get it out. So there's that element to it. It's just a bit of an interesting mix. I think that the bits we got, and these are important to say, because he is actually used to moving Singo a lot, is the info we've got, that he's been at Torino previously in Italy. He's been at Monaco in France, and now with Galatasaray. So there's that. So, progressing league, different styles. You could look at that in his favour. You could rule that against him. Probably one of the X's in the box for right now, Ivory Coast, AFCON. So obviously, if you want an immediate need, that will probably work against him, no doubt. So, if it's immediate, again, we're talking January in the summer. The couple of names I've got to put to you, Barts, that we were given on this, doing a bit of digging, and an analyst gave us this, and it's important to say. Do you remember Liverpool looked at a couple last summer, as in, do you remember Thomas Arroyo, I think it's pronounced, at Benfica, could play right back and centre back, very quick. Looked at him, as an option that if you were to profile him as a fullback, very strong in the air, but as a centre back, you'd be a bit on the low side, but very quick and could defend the channel aggressively. So that's one in the mix. But also, as it was put to us, you think of the way Slot had it at Feyenoord, Gertrude, who was a right back, but would often come in to make it like a 3 with the other 2 centre halves, allowing the other fullback to push on. So it's just with those elements, do you think that could be viewed unfavourable? Because he's so different if he was going to play right back, so different to Bradley and Frimpong. It's a completely different profile. But if you thought about him in terms of Arroyo, or if you thought about it in terms of Gertrude and being able to almost play as a 3, thinking a left side, so that could allow Kirkes to actually bomb on and almost do what we thought many thought he would do. Could that come into the mix for them as an option? Or even if you playing a kind of 3 style at the back that way?
Yeah, no, I think it could. I mean, if you also, the flip side to that is we profiled Hato and Hiraki, the guy who got to Arsenal. They're similar. This is the right side version of them, right? They are hybrid. They can play left back, they can play centre half, right? This kid can play right back and he can play centre half, which enables you then to do a 3 or a 4 and you get a bit lopsided, but that's kind of the player profile
true.
we've got at the moment. So yeah, I could see that they've switched their focus from having a hybrid left-sided defender to have a hybrid right-side defender, because you've got Frimpong's pace to go up and down with. And it would also release, if you're going to play 3, it would also release Kogates on the left. So yes, that makes a lot of sense, as it did to us in the summer when we were looking at what we were doing, but then we changed what we were doing in the front line up in the left, so it made less mode. But no, definitely. The unfortunate thing is AFCON. This kid is not going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen in January. This is not a now. This is the summer thing. So if you were thinking, great, get this kid in and we can play this while Mo's in AFCON and we can play Frimpong, that ain't going to happen because this guy's at AFCON as well. I think it's Ivory Coast at AFCON. I think they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea. It's a good theory. It does make a lot of sense, to be honest with you, particularly with Feyenoord's the way they used to play with Kutruda.
Yeah.
But this isn't an immediate. It's definitely not a January fix. This is a summer move. If this is going to happen, that's what they want to do.
And then the thing is, if you're going to go for a summer move, you'll probably have a more idea of who's going, who's staying, and it might just be that sometimes, it's January, what's available, what's needed now. This may just work against Singo. But at the same time, you can completely tell why they're having a look at him and his style and what he could bring. It isn't going to be January for this one, which may well work against him longer term as well. I suppose the only final one I wanted to talk about with you, and it's not so much that we're going to profile him because we've done it before, but Semenyo Bart, when me and Trev did digging on this, and it's kind of out there, isn't it? Indies messaged it about, or retweeted it 1,000 times, and there seems to be something in it. Liverpool have got a solid interest in Antoine Semenyo, and I get why this is in terms of, his raw pace, his physical attributes, the ability to beat a man, with speed and acceleration. It's important to say there's no reason why anyone should be surprised that Liverpool are interested in Semenyo. What people are going to levy back against is, hold on, we had a look at this guy solidly in the summer and didn't do it, having had a real solid look. Aren't there other priorities as well, which I think people would come with as well in terms of January? What are you making of this Liverpool back in for Semenyo in Jan?
Probably a bit like you just said there. I struggle to see the need to spend 60, 70 million on a attacker.
Yeah.
Right, who isn't Elise. Because this Semenyo is not going to replace Mo, right? I think I put an article out today from the account and people got confused. I wasn't saying that these kids are going to replace Mo. It's just there are good options for the
style,
front line. The style, right? Yeah. So Semenyo can play on the front line, but he does it from the left for Bournemouth and does it very well. Does he play with it? He plays with a similar type of player to Flo. In Kluivert, drops in and does a bit, but Kluivert starts in the 9, right? So, or can do, not full time. So, but again, he's got Cody. That's the player that he largely goes back to playing left wing. So, I struggle to see that, because the reason we are in the problem we are in right now is not up front. People want to have a go at Flo, want to have a go at Isak, want to go at who you go. Cool, you knock yourselves out. That isn't the reason we're 8th in the league. The reason we're 8th in the league is we can't keep clean sheets. That's a simple fact, and we can't stop conceding first. Signing Semenyo doesn't solve that problem to me at all. It means you go a bit clock per season. You just outscore teams. Okay, that might be fun for half a season, but it isn't long term going to make you back to being title winners. And I'm sorry to be completely honest, but it isn't. It might, and I don't think. So for me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Are they worried about missing out on him for the future? Maybe, but then again, I'd argue that I'd be looking the other side. I don't know. I mean, maybe I've got this all. I'm not privy to the conversations, but the long-term successor should be looking at replacing Mo. I would have thought, not the left side. But no, for me, I wouldn't spend that money. It's not my money, but I wouldn't spend it on a left winger in January. If you were going to spend that amount of money, I would spend it like further back.
It's so weird because I get it, the physical elements. And I think if someone said, just as a raw comparison, and it's not putting him in this level, but Semenyo is probably the closest physically, I would say, to Sadio Mane you could get in the Premier League right now in terms of that option and that balance. And, he can play on the right wing as well. He can play across the front line.
Yeah.
We know Liverpool were looking for a multifunctional forward in the summer. But again, like you, it isn't the priority for me. Would it improve it? Yes. Is it good? I'm going to say it's a bad signing because it's never that simple, but there's other priorities at the same time as well. And we've profiled a player that we looked at right now. And again, it may come as to opportunity, price point and all these. But when Liverpool were looking at Minter, and they have been looking at Minter heavily, that made more sense to me. A different profile to Mo, but someone on the right, I could understand it, and his pace and his pressing. But do you know what? It may be Semenyo. I suppose the final one I wanted to ask you on this, because I'll be careful how I phrase this, because the likes of Michael Edwards, I know he's a bit of a god to you data boys and all the, the spearmen. They are the people you worship at the altar of. But is this a fair comment or question to ask? If they are moving for Semenyo in January, is it a bit of an admittance like we may have just got this wrong a bit in the summer as well?
I think it's fair. So, I mean, we're never going to be privy to the conversations.
Yeah.
I think they are one team and they would all say that. But I think it's a fair argument to have that there was a lot of talk, and we said it, that we felt they were leaving themselves one short in attack by not going and replacing. Yeah. So in effect, they didn't replace Diaz. They went with 2 9s. Kept the right the same because Chiesa was normally the right side with Mo, right? But they limited them. They went with Rio rather than buying another left winger. Yeah. And I think we even said we felt that might be a mistake. And I think this, you could make that assumption that this is a result of that they want to go and rectify that. Sure. But the annoying thing for you and I is that there's a better player that was available at that time that they could have got to play on the left wing. So you as much as Semenyo is a good player, is not if you're going to replace on that area in the summer, you'd have got a far better player. But I think to long and short of it, I think you could think along those lines perfectly reasonably. I think there's a lot of discussions that will be had in the coming months about how robust those conversations were about these are the profiles, do they fit how you want to play from a coaching and tactical and data side, because clearly something has gone awry. If that's a human element, because they've lost a teammate and that's had an emotional effect, cool. That's not cool, but that hasn't had an impact. You've got to factor still, this planning has gone on for months, as you say on the shows with Trev and David. They're long time they think about this. There should have been a plan about we're going to get these players and we're going to evolve the team this way. And I think that's the conversation that I think needs to happen, is to understand, if you've thought about this for 6 months, why are we sat in November this many defeats when you've been thinking about how we're going to play? We've got no identity at the moment. I think that all feeds into that discussion, which I think rightfully should be happening now.
We will see. It's always important to remember, people, because I see some saying that November and it's January away. Don't be under any illusions. Liverpool's January plans, if that will be well afoot already, discussions, if they are going to make moves, will be having had. But interesting targets, as we said, across the board, there's an element of aggressiveness, physicality to all these. There's a lot of young talent there in Ordonez, Bouaddi, who a lot of people will like, probably different positions, different ranking, shall we say. Singo in the mix as well. But there's real question marks about what would be done in January for some over others. We'll have to see, won't we? But 3 very interesting profiles there. All it leaves me to say as ever, Bart, for the time, the analysis, and for sort of dragging you out your pit on a Friday morning, it is much appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was a Transfer Market Metrics special from Anfield Index.